Have you ever taken a medication that gave you side effects that felt, well, honestly worse than the actual cold you were trying to fight? We've all been there, right? Welcome back to another explainer. I'm genuinely thrilled you're here today because we're tackling a concept that is going to completely flip how you look at everyday problem solving. We're going to put on our diagnostic hats and look at society's broken solutions through this really fascinating medical metaphor. What if our societal policies and our systemic solutions are doing the exact same thing as that bad cold medicine? Let's find out.
Okay, let's dive into this. We are living in a society where the remedies are worse than the diseases. This is a powerful, almost unsettling thought straight from our source material today, and it perfectly establishes the absolute core paradox we'll be examining. Think about it. We spend so much collective time, money, and energy trying to cure our societal ills, but we very rarely stop to ask if the medicine we're administering is actually, well, toxic. And that naturally leads us to this central mystery. How exactly does a solution become a new problem? I mean, it sounds completely counterintuitive. We engineer these massive interventions with the absolute best of intentions, aiming to cure an ailment. But somewhere along the line, the formula flips, and the cure literally becomes the disease. I really want you to hold on to this question as we go through today's explainer, because shifting your perspective toward this kind of critical evaluation, it's going to entirely change how you read the news and analyze the world around you.
Section 1. The paradox of the cure when the treatment is the threat.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how this source defines overzealous solutions. Basically, these are interventions that are just too aggressive or too restrictive, and ultimately they generate way more harm than the original good they intended. We're going to use this diagnostic approach to examine why good intentions so frequently lead to bad outcomes. It's like a surgeon using a chainsaw instead of a scalpel, you know? When we apply a cure too aggressively, we create fatal side effects. The intervention itself becomes this blunt instrument, so instead of carefully excising the problem, it just damages the surrounding healthy tissue of our society or economy. It's the absolute classic case of overcorrecting.
Moving on to Section 2. When solutions strike back, the overdose. And this brilliantly illustrates the specific, unintended negative effects of these aggressive policies in practice. Our source material actually points to 3 distinct examples of how policies can inadvertently cause harm, completely regardless of where you fall on the political spectrum. First, let's look at strict regulations on businesses. The goal there is usually safety or fairness, right? But the unintended side effect is that it can stifle innovation and completely halt job growth. Second, we see excessive punishments for minor offenses. The intention is obviously to deter bad behavior, but it often creates this relentless cycle of crime that traps individuals. And third, subsidies for a particular industry. They're designed to help that industry thrive, but instead they lead to massive market distortions that harm entirely different sectors. Neutrally speaking, these are just structural reactions, basically cause and effect, where the policy overdose harms the broader system.
Which brings us to Section 3, treating only the symptoms. The illusion of the quick fix. Let's move on and see how this builds a case against short-term thinking. This is where we look at the immense danger of ignoring the underlying sickness in favor of temporary relief. The source contrasts the immediate allure of a quick fix against the long-term fallout. Take agriculture, for example. On the one hand, you have the quick fix, using excessive pesticides to immediately boost crop yields. I mean, it looks like a massive success right away, right? More food, faster. But look at the flip side. The long-term consequence is severe harm to the environment and to human health. We basically traded a temporary gain for a permanent, much more dangerous ailment. We treated the symptom of low yield, but created a systemic environmental disease in the process. And this dynamic plays out in social policy just as much as environmental policy. Here, the source breaks down a cyclical procedure regarding poverty. Step 1, we attempt to address poverty strictly through welfare programs alone. Step 2, we ignore the actual root causes, things like huge gaps in education and a lack of real job opportunities. And the inevitable step 3, poverty persists, or it actually worsens. Now, the source isn't saying welfare is inherently bad at all. Rather, it's stating that if you only provide temporary relief without tackling the underlying foundation, you just doom the patient to repeat the cycle. The symptom is managed for a day, sure, but the disease just continues to ravage the body.
Section 4. The one-size-fits-all fallacy. The wrong prescription.
So the crucial point is captured right here. As the text states, we cannot use the same yardstick to treat all people. Imagine a doctor prescribing the exact same medicine to every single patient in the waiting room, totally regardless of their actual symptoms. A one-size-fits-all policy assumes that a complex, incredibly diverse society will all react identically to a single intervention.
But the source reminds us that what works brilliantly for one specific person or one specific community group may completely and utterly fail for another. Applying a universal remedy to a highly localized problem is literally like using a leg cast to fix a headache. It is just the wrong prescription.
Finally, Section 5, Finding the True Cure, a mindful framework.
So, how do we actually fix the way we fix things? Well, to strive for solutions that actually improve a situation instead of just masking the disease, the source introduces what it calls the True Cure Protocol. Step 1. We must critically evaluate solutions and their potential long-term impacts before we act. We really have to look past the immediate gratification. Step 2, we must be deeply mindful of unintended consequences. We constantly have to ask, if we push this lever over here, what breaks over there? And finally, Step 3, our primary focus must remain on addressing root causes rather than just superficially treating symptoms. Because if we can adopt this mindful framework, we stop swinging a sledgehammer and we start acting with the precision of a surgeon.
Which leaves us with this final, incredibly provocative thought from everything we've explored today. I want you to look at the problem you are currently trying to solve in your own life, maybe at your workplace or in your community, and ask yourself, are your solutions truly curing the problem, or are you just busy creating the next disease? I really want you to take that critical mindset with you today. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep asking those hard questions, and I will see you next time.